Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the start of another reading vlog. This week I'm going to be attempting to finish reading books that I DNF'd in the past. For better or worse, I just cannot bring myself to hard DNF a book, and that's for a few reasons. The first reason is I have really bad FOMO, so even if I'm not enjoying a book, I just need to know how it's gonna end. The second reason kind of goes along with the FOMO. I get this what if feeling, like what if the moment after I DNF'd it, it was gonna turn around, change, and the book was gonna be completely different, end up being my new favorite book, which I know the chances of that happening are so slim, but that's just where my mind goes when I try to DNF. The third reason is that even if I'm not enjoying a book, I still like to see it through to the end and finish it out to be able to justify my rating and give you guys all the reasons why I didn't enjoy a book and be able to give a full review with all my thoughts and opinions. The fourth and final reason is I hate feeling like I wasted my time. If I'm going to sit here and put any amount of energy and time into starting a book, I'm going to see it through all the way to the end because I need it to count for something. I need to have it count towards my reading goal. I need to mark it as read on Goodreads. I at least need to get a sense of accomplishment out of finishing the book if I didn't enjoy my time reading it. So I know it's not the best habit, but I just cannot bring myself to DNF. So anytime I do DNF a book, I definitely consider it a soft DNF. Usually when I'm reading a book, if I'm not really feeling it, a lot of times I'm like, okay, this book isn't working for me right now, but I can definitely see myself being in the mood for it at a later time. Also, what happens a lot of times is I'll start a book and I get a ways into it, but then I just get overwhelmed with other books that I need to read that end up taking priority. Usually it's books I need to finish for a video or whatever it may be. So I push the other book to the back burner and it ends up becoming a DNF. So I have a handful of books that I have soft DNF'd that I'm going to be choosing from to read this week, and I'm excited to let you guys know all of my thoughts and opinions along the way. So I hope you guys enjoy watching the vlog. The book that I'm going to be reading first, and the book that actually inspired this whole video, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I picked this book up, I think it's been a couple years now. I remember it was around this time of year because I wanted to read this during the spring, and I made a good dent in it. I think I was between like the 100 and 150 page mark, and I just put it down one day and then never picked it back up. I don't really know why. I was just never really in the mood to read it again, but I feel like today is the day. Like I said, this feels like a very springtime book. It just feels very whimsical and outdoorsy. We're following this man who is like a social worker, and one day he gets a work assignment to go visit this orphanage where all the children there are actually magical creatures. So it's definitely not my usual kind of read. I think I just needed to be in a specific mood to read it, and that's probably why I never picked it back up again. But I am feeling it at the moment. It is actually on my physical TBR for the month as well. So knocking a few birds out with one stone when reading this, which is also motivating me to want to pick it up again and give it another try. So I'm just going to start over fresh from the beginning with this one. I don't really remember exactly where I left off, and I don't really remember a lot of the details, so I just want to start fresh from the beginning to get the full story. And I am excited. I definitely wasn't not liking this book before. That wasn't why I DNF'd it. Again, I just think I needed to be in a specific kind of mood, which I am in the mood for. So I definitely want to read it while I'm feeling it, because who knows, this isn't my usual read. I might not be feeling it come next week. So I'm excited to give it another try and let you guys know what I think of it. I had forgotten how funny this book is. The humor is definitely very like quirky and out there and very silly goofy, but it's making me laugh. It's making me giggle. It's super cute. It kind of reminds me of a mix between A Series of Unfortunate Events and Harry Potter. I think the writing style and the way it's just like a little bit sarcastic and not dark necessarily, but just kind of like silly and unserious reminds me a lot of A Series of Unfortunate Events. But then some of the magical elements that have already been thrown in are very much giving Harry Potter. Like where Linus, our main character, works, it reminds me a lot of the Ministry of Magic. Like the execs at his company are called extremely upper management, and it's just really silly terms like that that very much give me Harry Potter. So I'm having a fun time with it already, and a lot is starting to come back to me. So Linus has gotten his work assignment and he's at the orphanage and we're meeting all the children, and there were definitely a few children that I remember from my first read, but a lot of them I had forgotten, and the children are definitely my favorite part of this book. I feel like they make the whole story because they're just so sweet and charming and endearing, and I really like that this book is like already putting out the theme of celebrating our differences. I feel like that's definitely one of the messages of this book, and I really love that. The children are just so fun to read about. It's very cute, but I will say I forgot that this book is YA, and sometimes it just reads super overly juvenile and silly, and I know I'm definitely not the intended audience, but so many adults love this book too, and a lot of times it just feels so YA that it takes me out of the story just a little bit. It's almost like trying too hard at certain moments to be silly and just, I don't know, kind of like put across certain things where I'm like, okay, I could have come to that conclusion on my own reading it, like I'm smart enough, but I feel like since it's YA, it does kind of like, I don't want to say dumb things down, but like break it down and make it super obvious instead of being more like subtle with certain things. So that's really my only complaint so far, but still haven't made it to the point where I was at before, but I'm getting close to page 100. So I'm sure when we hit that scene, I will remember it. I'm kind of ready to get past where I was before and start reading things that are new to me in the book. So I couldn't remember exactly where I left off page-wise the first time I read this book, but I kind of remembered the scene and what was happening. Not a lot of the details, but generally I thought I knew what was going on, and we have hit that scene and I'm past that point now. So I'm glad to be reading new material and reading about things that I don't know what's gonna happen, because before I was kind of reading and I could kind of like expect what was coming next because it was coming back to me, but now it's like all new things. So I'm happy to have made it past the mark where I first DNF'd this book. I will say something I'm picking up on and not loving, which I don't know if I mentioned it in my last update because I feel like I was starting to notice it then too. The way it's written, it almost feels kind of just over the top and a little bit overwritten. Like, I really love the themes of the book. I love that it's about celebrating these children's differences, and I find the children so sweet and so endearing, and they're just like so quirky and fun in their unique ways. But the way it's written, it's almost trying to like shove down my throat that these children are supposed to be cute, and it's like I can form my own opinion as the reader. I can love these children on my own. It's just little things thrown in to try and really force that I need to love these children. I also feel like Linus's character is just really getting on my nerves. The way he's written, he's supposed to be a very logical person based on his job. Like, he's going to this orphanage, he's observing, he's supposed to like remove all bias and emotion and just state the facts for his observation that he's supposed to be writing about this orphanage. And I get that him being a logical character is just part of who he is, but it's making me not really connect with him as a character because he's just very frustrating. So Linus and his personality just is not my favorite, but I would say my favorite part definitely is the children and just how sweet they are, and just the magical elements of this book I'm really loving. But definitely a few critiques of it, so I don't know, I feel like I'm liking it a little bit less maybe than I was initially. So we'll see how it goes from here to the end. I will update you guys if I have more thoughts before then, but if not, I'll share my final rating and my final thoughts and opinions when I finish the book. Hi guys, I finished The House in the Cerulean Sea and I wanted to share my final thoughts and opinions and my star rating. The ending I did really like. I did find really sweet. It made me tear up. It was super cute and it kind of went how I thought it was gonna go. It was a little bit predictable in that sense, but the very ending was kind of ambiguous, kind of open, and definitely left me wondering what was gonna happen and where the story was gonna go in the next book that I know came out pretty recently. I don't think I loved this book enough to want to read a book 2, but I was interested enough to want to like Google spoilers for what might happen in the next book, so we'll see. I'll probably look up what happens at some point. Unless I hear really rave reviews for book 2, I don't think I'm gonna pick it up and read a whole nother book in this series. But I think for my rating, I've decided on a 3.25 stars. A lot of things I liked about the book, but definitely had a lot of critiques of it, and a lot of it is just personal preference. I really liked how whimsical and fun this book was. I liked the quirky humor. It was very unique and different, and I could definitely pick up on bits of inspiration inspiration from the Harry Potter series and a series of Unfortunate Events, both book series that I loved growing up. So I enjoyed kind of that little bit of nostalgia that we got from this book. I will say this book almost read younger than YA to me at times. It felt almost middle grade at points, in the sense that certain things felt like they were overwritten and just spelled out way too clearly. It was like over the top for me, whereas I wish that I could have been trusted as the reader to infer certain things for myself, especially when it came to the children. I feel like it was shoved down my throat how cute these children were and how much I needed to love them, whereas for me personally, the children were my favorite part of the book, and I could have come to the conclusion that they were super cute and adorable on their own. I loved them. They were so unique and fun to read about. They were very charming, very heartwarming. I've never read a book that has characters like these children, so I loved that part of the book. I will say though, our main character Linus didn't love so much. It was mainly like personal preference again. His character was very logical and rational, which worked for his job because he was supposed to go to this orphanage, write an observation, be very objective, not have any bias in his reports. So it made sense in that sense, and I kind of knew that the children were going to rub off on him and soften him up a little bit, but it didn't work in terms of me connecting to him as a main character throughout the whole book. So I hesitate to recommend it because this isn't my usual read and it didn't completely work for me, but I think if this sounds like your thing, you love books like this would probably work for you. But if it's outside of your comfort zone but you've just heard so much about it, I know of people who say they never read books like this and absolutely loved it, but I've heard people say this didn't work for them and this isn't usually their thing. So I don't know, it's hard for me to say one way or the other if I would recommend it to you guys. I would just use your own judgment based on my review, if we have similar taste, if you think you would like this for yourself. So kind of a mixed bag, and it's kind of funny looking back on the first time I read this because I feel like I thought it would be a solid 4-star read based on what I remembered reading this initially, but I could just be misremembering, or I could just be more critical and my taste could have changed. And I think also just having read so many books between then and now, I have become more critical because I've read so much and because I've just reviewed so many things. So I know my taste really well, and this just didn't completely work for me, but I didn't dislike it by any means. It was cute, enjoyable, and I'm so glad I finished it. So glad I can finally mark it as read and get it off the TBR. Okay, the next book I'm reading for this video is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which wasn't even on my radar as books I might pick up and read for this video, but I was just looking at my physical TBR for the month, trying to decide what I wanted to read next outside of books for this video, and I was like, oh my gosh, we can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone again, because I actually picked this book up, started it, similar kind of thing, a couple years ago around this same time of year. This book actually takes place in April and May, so I knew I wanted to read it in those months. And I read like maybe 2 chapters. I think I read not even like 20 pages in this book, so barely any, but I just had so much going on when I initially tried to start this book, and I just pushed it to the back burner. Other books took priority and I never picked it back up again. So this definitely counts as a soft DNF, and I'm going to finish it for this video. I'm really excited about it because this is one of my 25 books I wanted to read in 2025. I feel like I'm one of the last people to read this book because everyone has read this, everyone rates it so highly. This book has so much hype. I have read a few books by Lynn Painter and have given them not the best reviews, but they aren't really like fan favorite books, so I have high hopes, high expectations going into this one. All I remember from my first read is getting introduced to our 2 main characters, Liz and Wes, and they are like fighting over a parking spot, and then I know eventually that Wes is gonna help Liz get with this guy that she wants to go to the prom with, and I think they end up having feelings for one another in the process. So very, very excited to jump into this one. I've just been saving it for the perfect moment, and I feel like now is the time, and I'm also very excited to read it when it actually takes place. So we'll jump in. I'll let you guys know how it ends up going. So I've made it to page 90 in Better Than the Movies, and it feels very, very YA to me. Like, it's all the really stereotypical high school things, and the characters feel super young adult, but the fact that it is very YA is making it a really easy read, and it's very fast paced, and I'm just flying through it. It felt like I was only reading for maybe 30 minutes, and I'm already almost to page 100, so it's going by super quickly, and it's cute and fun and enjoyable. I really like the dynamic between Liz and Wes. They have been next door neighbors since they were children, so they know each other really well, and I really like their back and forth and their banter. Wes kind of picks on Liz, but it's not in like a bullying, mean kind of way. He just knows her so well that he knows how to get under her skin, and he is currently helping her do everything she can to get this guy named Michael, who used to be one of their neighbors and moved away, and now he's moved back just in time for prom season, and Liz has always had a crush on Michael. So she is trying to get Michael to like her and notice her and not see her as the little girl that she was when they were childhood neighbors, so that he will ask her to the prom. And that's where we're at so far. I will say I don't feel super connected to the characters yet, or really that invested in what's going on. It's definitely cute and I'm having a fun time, but I just don't feel super in it. Like, it feels super fictional to me. It feels like I'm reading a book, and I thought I would get a little more into it than I am, just because of all the hype that this book gets. But I'm gonna take a pause here, probably pick back up a little more later tonight and read, and I will let you guys know when I have more thoughts on Better Than the Movies. I'm almost to the 200 page mark, and I really love the storyline and the plot of this book. I think that is its strength. It very much reads like a movie. It feels like a rom-com movie, and I like that it's very on the nose in that sense. The makeover scene, so cute. One of my favorite parts of the book so far. Wes takes Liz shopping to try and get her some outfits to be like the kind of girl that Michael will like, because Liz's personal style is very unique and very quirky, and Michael kind of made a comment about a dress that Liz wore at the beginning of the book. So Wes is helping Liz, but I like that he's not trying to change her. He's just trying to take her personal style and kind of blend it to look like the type of girl that Michael would like, to help her out. And it was just so fun and so cute to read. I will say there was this one scene that cringed me out a lot, and it was just so cheesy. So Liz does this thing where she has like a soundtrack to her life. She likes to pick the perfect song to go with the moment, and she has all these different playlists for different things. And so she's watching the guys play basketball. She has her headphones in, and she's like shuffling through her music, trying to pick the perfect song to go with the moment in the basketball game that they're playing, and it was just so cringy. Like, it was complete with song lyrics and all. I was just so cringed out. I found that part to be extremely cheesy, but other than that, the storyline and the plot is my favorite part. It is just so fun to read. I will say it does feel like something is missing for me. I'm not fully invested or connected the way I thought I would be at this point in the book, and we're pretty far in now. I'm almost 200 pages in. I kind of wish we got Wes's POV. I definitely think that would add to it. It makes for a very slow burn because we only know what Wes is thinking when he says it to Liz, but I wish we got inside his head and knew what he was thinking before he told Liz. I think that would really add to it and make me feel a little bit more invested and connected, but it is adding to the slow burn, which I do like that part of the romance. I feel like it is a very organic and natural progression of their feelings. I think my opinions and feelings towards some of these characters has shifted as Liz's feelings have changed. So I like that part of it, but again, I just feel like there's a little bit something that's missing. I'm just not completely invested or connected, but I think the storyline is so fun, and I love that it actually reads like a rom-com movie. Finished Better Than the Movies, and I wanted to share my final thoughts and opinions and my star rating with you guys. So I will start with the good first. My favorite thing about this book was definitely the plot and the storyline. Literally the book version of a 2000s rom-com movie, which I'm sure was the intent, and it was so well done. It was just a very fun, fast-paced, enjoyable read. So many fun scenes that really jumped off the page and came to life, and I just was smiling ear to ear while reading them, despite there being a few cheesy parts. I just thought the storyline was the best and strongest part of the book. I thought the pacing was extremely well done too, both in terms of how fast-paced it was. This book read so quickly. I think if you're in a slump, this would be the perfect thing to help pull you out of one, because I would be reading for hours and it felt like no time had passed at all, and I got through this book super quickly. I also think the progression of the romance was really well done too. It was the perfect slow burn. However, I did go into this book with very high expectations just based off all the things I've heard about it. I feel like I've never heard anything negative about this book. I've only seen very rave reviews, and my expectations were not quite met. I can't even put my finger on what I didn't like about it, but I just felt like there was something missing because I never got fully invested in what was going on, and I never felt fully connected to the story. I do think, like I mentioned in my last update, if we had gotten part of Wes's perspective, not even like an every other chapter kind of thing, but maybe every few chapters, just a couple pages from him, I think would have pulled me in more and made me feel more connected character-wise. But then again, not having his perspective did kind of add to the mystery element in the slow burn, because you never really knew what he was thinking until he told Liz what he was thinking. So I don't know, I guess that could have gone either way really. I feel like Liz as a main character too wasn't really my favorite. She made some questionable decisions. She got herself into some sticky situations and she had to tell a lot of white lies to get herself out of them, and I didn't love that. I feel like at times she just wasn't the best friend or the best family member, and you kind of understood where she was coming from, but at the same time it didn't make me love her that much as a character. I'm also wondering if I maybe just didn't completely click with the writing style, which is totally fine, but I read a fair amount of YA, I would say, and a lot of it I absolutely love. Like Jenny Han comes to mind, for example. Her books to me, even though they read very YA and I don't connect or relate to them based on what's happening in my life now, I relate to them on more of like a nostalgic level, and they transport me back to a certain time in my life. Whereas this book, I just didn't feel that. I didn't get transported back to my days leading up to prom and trying to decide what college I was going to go to, that senior year feeling. I just didn't really feel the nostalgia despite all these stereotypical high school elements to this book. So something about it I just didn't completely click with. So those are my thoughts. I definitely have a little bit of mixed opinions on it, but I would say overall I liked it, just definitely some critiques on it. So I've landed on a 3.75 star rating for this book. I was going back and forth between 3.5 and 3.75, but there were just so many things that I really did like about it, but it's not quite a 4-star for me because I did have quite a few critiques. So I think part of it too was just all the hype, and I went in with high expectations, so maybe had I gone in with lower expectations I would have been a little more impressed. But at the end of the day it was enjoyable, just something was missing because I wasn't completely invested or connected. The last book that I'm going to be reading and attempting to finish is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This book still has the bookmark in it at page 141. I started reading this book pretty soon after it came out, and then I remember last reading it all the way back in September, and I just put it down one day, kept the bookmark in it, and never picked it back up again. If you follow me on Goodreads, you may have noticed that this book has been marked as currently reading for forever, and I'm ready to change that. I just have not been in the mood to pick this back up since then. I feel like this book kind of fell victim to a trend I've been noticing with these interconnected standalone romance series. I feel like these series get really big and really hyped, and the fan base all has a favorite character. In this case with the Maple Hill series, I feel like that character definitely was Henry, and I feel like as readers we all are obsessed with this one character and cannot wait for their book. But then when their book does come out, usually it's been a little bit of a disappointment lately, just thinking on some of the past releases that have come out that have been so highly anticipated and haven't gotten the best reception. I feel like that is definitely the case with this book because I personally was a little bit bored while reading it, and I think that's part of why I haven't picked it back up in a while. I love Henry's character. He is so sweet, and I really like how in Hannah Grace's books it doesn't have a lot of conflict. The characters are very mature and great at communicating, but it doesn't make for the most interesting of storylines. It's more so just following these characters in their day-to-day lives, and something about that in this book especially, I think because maybe I had high expectations for Henry's book, just left me a little bit bored. Our female main character in this is Hallie, and she is very relatable. She's a book girly. She's trying to write a romance book of her own, but she is struggling because in her own personal life, she hasn't had that many dating experiences to be able to pull from and write about in her own book. So Henry's helping her out and taking her on some dates to kind of get new experiences to write about in her book. And then in return, Hallie is tutoring Henry to help him out in one of the classes that he's struggling with. So that's the story we're following, but again, I was just a little bit bored with it. I'm not going to start all the way from the beginning. I'm just going to start where I left off. I feel like there weren't too many details that I would have forgotten. I feel like it'll come back to me once I pick up where I left off, and I'm hoping the book gets a little more exciting from here on out. I'll let you guys know how it goes with some updates though along the way. Hi guys, I finished Daydream. I'm here to give my final thoughts. My thoughts really didn't change at all while reading this, which is why I didn't give you guys an update. I kind of just kept trying to push through, hoping that it would pick up so that I could update you guys and say my feelings had changed. But that never really was the case, unfortunately. And there was nothing really wrong with this book. I almost feel like it was kind of too perfect. On paper, Hallie, our female main character, was so relatable. She was everything I would want a female main character in a romance book to be. And the same for Henry. He was like my perfect, most ideal male main character in a romance book. But I feel like together, they were just almost too perfect. Like their relationship was so smooth sailing. There wasn't too much conflict in the book between the two of them. There was external things, but it wasn't really enough to make me not feel like this book was just a little bit boring and repetitive. I feel like because it was the way it was really lacking in the angst and the tension and the passion. So it just felt like something was kind of missing, but there was nothing wrong with this book. Like it wasn't bad. I didn't dislike it. I just wanted more out of it, I guess. So I landed on a 3.5 stars. I did enjoy things overall. I did love the found family. I liked seeing characters from the previous books. I do think if this was just a standalone and not part of a series that I already love and have already grown to know the characters, it probably would be a little bit lower of a rating, but I think that familiarity and just already loving this series and this world and these characters makes my rating a little bit higher. But nothing wrong with it in terms of like disliking the book. It was just a little bit boring and repetitive. Things were just like too perfect almost, which I guess is not the worst critique to have, but I just wanted a little bit more out of it. So those are my final thoughts on the book, and that is going to close out this video. So I had a lot of fun. I'm so glad that I finally finished reading 3 books that I previously soft DNF'd, and I can mark them off my TBR, count them as read. They're 3 books that I feel like are pretty popular, and I wanted to know what I thought of them, but I did rate them all somewhere in the 3-star range. So I feel like if they were going to be my new favorite book or like a 5-star read, I would have picked up on that before I DNF'd them. Maybe not with Better Than the Movie, since I only read like 20 pages, but I feel like my initial reaction is usually right. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you enjoyed, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the red subscribe button down below to stick around. I would love to have you guys here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon in my next one. Bye guys.